So people that believe they understand the science of mind, so many of them, actually think that the purpose of the science of mind is to fix problems. And it's kind of easy to get that idea. But the truth is that that's not the most important part of what we do in the teaching of science of mind. Just so everybody knows, Barbara's got some digestive things going on, so she's going to go take care of herself. No? You're not going to take care of yourself? No. Okay, but you'll be back, right? No. Okay, love you. Yeah, there you go, absolutely. Yeah. So, this idea, the science of mind, fixing problems. Again, easy to go there. We say that we use this teaching to control conditions, and we do, we absolutely do. But that's not just about fixing things. And on the other end of a continuum, I would say that many people, and this goes far beyond the science of mind, people that have a sense of the divine give the divine credit when things go really well. And we're very grateful. We're grateful that our lives are working. We say, thank you, Spirit, for all the blessings in my life. And that's a great thing to do that. I'm not sure that the idea of speaking to some entity outside of ourselves is actually what I would do, but being grateful is a very powerful thing to practice in our lives. So you've got fixing problems on one end of a continuum and being grateful for blessings on the other. But truly, that's not where we spend most of our time. Yes, we have challenges at times, but truly there's this big, vast area between the two where we live our lives. And I want to suggest that that intersection for most people looks pretty regular, pretty normal, pretty average, because that's where things are going on, right? So why would it be important to have a spiritual awareness in the midst of everyday life? Why would it be important when nothing in particular bad is going on, or nothing particularly extraordinarily wonderful is going on? The rest of the time where we're just kind of moving through life, what's the value of having a spiritual awareness in that space? And what I would suggest to you that that's the most important place to use this, because if you're using this teaching and the practice that goes with it in that everyday part of your life, what you're doing is you're pushing yourself much more toward the gratitude stuff and away from the problem stuff than you are otherwise. The idea of waiting till something's wrong to suddenly want to go into a spiritual context just isn't the place to do it. The place to do it is when everything's just kind of okay. Everything's just kind of there. That's the place where we can actually get something done and get to the place where we want our life to be. We all have desires, and that's just that. I think achieving our desires is in that middle ground. It's where we have to do things. We have to take action. We have to get up in the morning and make things happen. But there's nothing all that exciting about climbing the mountain. It's wonderful to be on top of the mountain. Whoa, that's fantastic. But as we're going through it, it's just kind of average. So I see this idea of this average, everyday, inconsequential, mundane part of our lives as the most important part. That's where we can do the most work, and create the most success for ourselves in that place. When we don't do that, when we just got up and take care of our chores and go to work and do the thing that we get paid for, whatever that is, even if we love it, it's still kind of this stuff we do. And to me, I relate that to the idea of being on a ship in the middle of the ocean with no rudder and no anchor. There's lots of stuff you can do on the ship. You can clean the galley, you can swab the deck, endless tasks that you can do. And they would seem very useful and effective. Yet you're on a ship that's just kind of going with the currents. Maybe you've even got sails on the ship. You put up the sails, that's great, but you have no rudder, so where are you going? What inevitably will happen to anyone in that circumstances is the ship that they're on will crash into the rocks, or it will go aground in shallow water. That's just what's going to happen because there's no direction. There's no intention. There's just living life, going through your day. So I want to suggest that there's a way around this, and that if we bring a spiritual awareness to our everyday, average, normal lives on a regular basis, we'll get more out of life. We can't wait till things are going poorly. We use this to be in the state of divine awareness that we're called to be. So I want to just run through some ideas on areas of our lives that require this kind of conscious attention. The idea that even when things are not in trouble or going badly, it's worth paying attention to these areas of our life. I've got 7 of them here, and we'll go through them pretty quick. The first one is our physical bodies. Everybody knows this, that there are things that we have to do to make our bodies function well. They include diet and exercise and working with healthcare professionals, whether they're alternative or allopathic or anything else. We have things that we do. But are we applying our consciousness to our bodies? Are we seeing our bodies as the amazing, miraculous structures that they are? Are we appreciating them? Are we doing the work to emphasize how wonderful our bodies are all the time, on a regular basis? I don't know. Maybe some of you are. I haven't been all that good at it over the years, because there's a lot of foods that I really like that probably I shouldn't eat, And some of you will remember from past years, I was a lot bigger than I am now. It was more out of control at that point. And there's still times when I am not giving the attention to my body that I think I should. So this is the first one. And I'm not talking about the regimen. I'm talking about the thinking. How do we perceive our bodies? Do we see them as the miracles they are? Do we express that gratitude for them? Even when we have some, aches and pains maybe. Are we taking the time to do that? Our bodies are number 1. Number 2 is our emotions. Most people think, in the world, I really believe this, most people think that our emotions just happen. Some people actually record the emotions they have as though there's some message that comes with them. That's not how it works, folks. How it works is that you are absolutely in control of your mental state, of your emotional state. What you're feeling may relate to something that's happening out in the world, something that you're observing or perceiving, but that's not what's creating the emotion. It's not. You've heard people say, "You made me angry." That's impossible. No one can make you angry. It's your choice to be angry. And it's your choice not to be angry or sad or confused or upset or delighted or thrilled or joyous or happy. They're all your choice. You get to pick. So what happens is at least it has happened in my life many times, is I'll wake up and something will go sideways and I'll get an attitude. That really pissed me off. Well, it doesn't stop there, because by doing that, I've introduced that emotional, energetic state to my life, and it's going to keep happening. And life's going to keep bringing me things to tick me off, because that's how it works. So it has great value for us to be conscious of our emotional state, to claim our emotional state, not to be a victim to our emotional state, but to know that we're the ones that are in charge of how we feel. And when we do, the day goes better. At least mine does. Number 3 is our finances. I don't know if that really needs to be that high on the list, but it's still important. It's important because we live in a world where we have exchanges. And human beings have come up with myriad forms of currency that we use around the world to make these exchanges so that we can get the things that we want these days, if they're available. And so that we have the comforts of life that we desire. Finances, and this won't be a surprise to you, but finances are completely a result of your consciousness. They have proven that people that win big lotteries tend to go through that money really quick if they don't have a consciousness for abundance. So that's a perfect example on why some people, no matter how much money they get, tend to stay without much money. When I was in my 20s, I opened an oil field equipment business in Houston, Texas. It was called Waterhouse Engine and Pump Company. I learned about engines and pumps from other people that I had worked with, and I started my own company. At one point, I had 28 employees. I was doing about $4 million in sales every year. It was a flourishing business. And I would have to run home with a check to put on the meter for my water so they wouldn't turn it off, or my lights so they wouldn't turn it off, because I had no consciousness for abundance, which was weird. It didn't need to be that way. We are absolutely in charge of that. So when we lament that we don't have enough, what we're telling the universe is we don't have enough, and the universe will accommodate us and make sure that we always have things to put our money into that don't make our lives any better. You know, fixing the car and bringing the repairman in for God knows what. You know, all the things that happen when we believe we don't have enough, life will support us in not having enough. So bringing conscious attention to the idea of being prosperous, to living an abundant life, is essential to not be poor. It's simply required. That's the third one. The fourth one I've got on my list is our space. I know any of you that know me well and have been in my home know that I'm a bit obsessive on having things in their place. But it works for me. And I'm not suggesting you have to do that. But what I am saying is, if there's a level of disorganization in your world, if you don't know where something is, if you're struggling and putting a lot of attention into finding things, then first thing, you're wasting a lot of your precious time where you could be creating something wonderful. But if you're looking at things that don't have a reasonable sense of order to them, you're telling yourself that you live in that state. We always say that what we see on the outside is a reflection of what's going on the inside. Well, if our space is not pleasant to be in, that speaks to how we're feeling on the inside. Now, I'm not suggesting anybody has to be as obsessive as I am about it, but it is a valuable thing to have some sense of order. Barbara's son did not have a sense of order that aligned with she and I when he moved in with us when he was 15. He's in his 50s now, so this was a long time ago. But he did not, and Barbara was constantly trying to get him to clean up his room. And what I said to Barbara is, don't fight with him. That just adds to the level of stress. Close his door. And she started doing that. And it all calmed down. Everything was fine. And of course, when we moved to Asheville, like the next year, and he met his first girlfriend and his current wife, she made sure that he changed his ways. She apparently had some advantages over us in that. So he's a very organized guy right now, and it makes his life work better. So I think that's true pretty much of anybody. So your space is a reflection of your life. Although some people say a clean desk is a sign of a sick mind, but I'm not sure that's necessarily true. What is true is that life reflects to us what's going on the inside. So look at your space and see, this isn't about a cleanup project. This is about how you perceive your space. What are your thoughts about your space? Are you pleased with your space? I know there are people who have stacks of things everywhere, and if they need something, they know which stack it's in. It's about a third of the way down, and they pull it out. And that's fine. If that's the way, if that works for you and you feel good about it, I'm not telling you you have to live a certain way, but your space, your environment, your car, your house, your office, if you have an office, are things that reflect your consciousness. So think about them. Think about how much you like the way they are and how they're influencing you with what's going on the inside. Number 5, relationships. Wow, this is so big because we are not here to be alone. We are here to be together. So how do we prioritize our relationships in our mind? How do we see our relationships? Are we critical of them? Do we find fault in the people that are closest to us? Or do we understand that everyone is being exactly who they are intended to be? They're being true to their nature. And if you can find that, and that's been my world, is when I figured out that if someone lies to me, I don't need to get mad at them about that. I just need to know that that's their way. And that when they talk to me, I'm not going to necessarily believe what they're saying. I'll still love them. If someone is angry, I don't really want them around me for the most part. I mean, everybody gets a chance to be angry now and again, but what I'm finding is that when I surround myself with people that I love, I'm going to love them no matter what they do. And that seems to work pretty well for me. So take a look at how you perceive your relationships and what you want from your relationships without making anybody wrong, because everyone's doing it exactly the way they're supposed to do it, including you. Number 6 is our work. And this is important. This we call creative self-expression. All of us come to this world to do things, to do, in particular, maybe one area of focus. It's called our purpose. It takes a while for some people to find their purpose, and that's fine. There's no rush. Chances are you're already doing it. And what I have found is that when we are living our purpose, we're happy. And when we're not living our purpose, when we're doing something else in the world, we're not necessarily happy. That there's a reason we're here. We've come to bring a gift to the world, all of us, no exceptions. And when we do that, we get the result that we want. We get the outcome that we want. So focusing on this expression into the world could be a job, could be an avocation, could be a passion that you never get paid for. It really doesn't matter. There's a reason you're here. It's the work you've come to do. And when we focus on it from that spiritual perspective, it really does work. And the last one on my little list is play, which is critically important. Yeah. Being playful in life, recreating, spending time doing something that's just for you is essential to a balanced life. So we don't ignore that. We pay attention to it, and we include it in our thinking, that there's an element of our lives where we get to be absolutely playful, where we get to relax, we get to be joyous without any great intent or outcome expected, just to be. And when we do that, we have an energy around that we bring to everything else that we do. So again, this isn't about changing. I'm not asking you to change the way you live your life. I'm asking you to look at these 7 ideas and see how you address them in your life, how you think about them, how you develop them internally to make your life balanced. Balance is one of the hardest things for us as human beings. We tend toward things that we're better at, and we tend not to do things that we're not as good at, which creates imbalance. So focusing on these things, if you do it on a regular basis, will give you an outcome that you may actually find helpful. Helpful when you're doing the dishes, when you're doing the wash, when you're taking care of cleaning your car, or anything else in your life that you're doing. You bring that energy to it, that energy of wholeness, that energy of remembering that you are the divine, that you are the presence of God in your life. You're the creative force. And that's always true. So how would I suggest you do it? My simple answer to that is spiritual practice. And I know that a number of you in the room actually have a spiritual practice. Mine is in the morning. I have to do it in the morning because what I'm doing with my spiritual practice is setting the direction of my day. And what I've found is when I don't do my spiritual practice in the morning, it can get really ugly. Because my average mind will just start creating things that end up in things that I'm either not enjoying or I'm not being particularly productive with, or I'm just distracted. And that's not helpful. So whatever task I'm doing, I want to do it remembering the truth of who I am. Now, there's lots of spiritual practice. You can meditate, and there's so many ways to meditate. Or you could do chanting. The whole idea of those things is to clear your mind. You certainly can do rituals. Many people have rituals they do as their spiritual practice. There's lots of ways to do it. But for me, the thing that works is a thing called spiritual mind treatment. Spiritual mind treatment. That's what we also call affirmative prayer. It's a prayer where we're not really praying to anything or anyone. We are simply knowing the truth. And we're knowing the truth in a specific, organized way that really gets into our psyche. I remember when I started learning about spiritual mind treatment, my teacher was Barbara. One of my teachers was Barbara. And I'm going, what? I have to do these things in order? I can't just be? And the answer was no. You have to do these things in order for it to work. The spiritual practice has 5 steps. And that's what this class that we're starting tomorrow night is about. It's about actually applying these steps to our lives in a way that works. And I have found since my early resistance that this is the most powerful tool I've ever had to live the life I've come to live. And I've gotten to do some remarkable things in my life. And I give full credit to my consciousness, which is what it always is, but the use of this tool called spiritual mind treatment on my consciousness to get where I'm supposed to get and do what I'm supposed to do. It has been the key. So I'm going to show you the 5 steps real quick here and get you started on understanding this. The first step is called recognition, and it's about recognizing the presence of the divine. Not just casually, but recognizing it at a level to understand how absolute it is, how perfect it is, how complete it is, how powerful it is, how it's all-knowing, it's all power, it's all, everything everywhere is within that. The universe, the physical universe is enveloped in the presence of the divine. So there's nowhere and nothing where it is not present. And when you really start working on that in your head, it's unachievable to absolutely get that. It's a direction much more than a destination. But when you get it, it's awesome. There are people who sit in monasteries and abbeys and temples around the world just trying to get that, just trying to understand that. And that's the thing that will start you off on really understanding who you are. Because the second step of treatment is identification, which is identifying that if God is all there is, that must be what you are. Well, God's everything except you? God's everything except people? No, God's everything. That divine presence is everything. And when we start understanding that that creative force dwells at the center of our being and that we use it every time we have a thought, every time we say something, and every time we do anything, that divine presence is in the midst of all of that. Nothing else can be. So that's the work right there, those 2 things. And that's a lifetime journey, exploring that. And we'll do some good work in the next 4 weeks on Monday nights. But that's the work right there. The third step is called realization. I call it realization. Because what it's about is, what do you want? That's what my Native American teacher used to say to me. He'd sit down, he'd look at me and go, what do you want? I hadn't thought about what I want. Well, if you don't think about what you want, you're never going to get it. So know what you want. Which takes us back to those 7 areas that we just talked about. This is where that work is done, in the state of realization, where you realize that these outcomes, these ways of being in the world with your body and your, golly, I'm already forgetting the list, your emotions and your, all of these areas of your life, relationships and your health, and all of these areas of your life is yours to direct. I mean, you can be on the boat that's just wandering around in the water, or you could say, this is where I'm going with this. This is the state I'm choosing for my life, for my body, for my emotions, for my relationships. I'm taking this as the way I'm going to be in the world. That is so powerful. Most people don't realize it. They keep thinking everything that's important is out there, and it's not. It's in the midst of who we are. And it's by realizing that this already exists, this way of being already exists within you, is what allows it to come forth so easily. Other words that are used for the 3rd step are affirmation or declaration, and those are great words, but they're kind of effortful, where I just realized is this the way that we do that. It's not effort. It's simply knowing. And when we're able to do that, things change. So that's the 3rd step. The 4th step is gratitude. Now, I talked early on today about this idea of what happens in gratitude and the idea of being grateful. It's actually a very powerful thing to be grateful. It has much more utility than simply being a nice thing to do. And I'm going to teach those in the class about how to use gratitude in an incredibly powerful way. And the final one is release, because here's the deal. There's nothing in doing this spiritual practice that's about how you're going to do it. Now, you're going to take some actions, I'm certain of that, but it's not about how, it's about what. And when you're focused on what it is that you're realizing is in your life, you have to get out of the way and let the universe handle how that shows up. It's your job to not try to micromanage the universe. It's your job to know that that is true in your life. You realize it's true, so it's true. And I assure you that out of that, it shows up. And when it shows up, you'll be moving from that state of mediocrity, that state of living in a mundane life, to living an exceptional life. And you'll have everything that you could ever desire, and all will be well, because all is God, and that's the truth. And so it is.